The silent question. Before the noise of the world rushes back in, pause. Let me ask you a question that sounds simple, but cuts deep. When was the last time you felt truly safe with the person you love? Not just physically safe, emotionally safe, psychologically safe, safe to speak without fear, safe to cry without punishment, safe to be yourself without consequences. If that question makes your chest tighten, this message is not random. It found you. Because toxic relationships rarely announce themselves loudly. They creep in quietly. They disguise themselves as love. And by the time you realize something is wrong, you are already deeply attached. Tonight, today, wherever you are listening from, we are going to talk about what many people are afraid to name. Toxic relationships, marriages, why people stay, how to cope, and finally, the most controversial question of all, is separation or divorce sometimes the right solution? Stay with me, because the truth unfolds slowly and powerfully. What a toxic relationship really is. A toxic relationship is not always chaos. Sometimes it is quiet misery. It is the relationship where you constantly second-guess yourself. You rehearse conversations in your head before speaking. You feel exhausted, but you can't explain why. You give more and receive less. You apologize even when you are the one hurt. Toxicity is not defined by one argument. It is defined by patterns. Patterns of disrespect. Patterns of fear. Patterns of imbalance. A toxic relationship slowly trains you to accept this. Less than you deserve. And then convinces you that this is normal. That is how the poison works. When toxicity becomes abuse, abuse is not about anger. It is about control. An abusive marriage does not always leave bruises. Some of the deepest wounds are invisible. Abuse sounds like, "You're too sensitive. No one else would tolerate you. You made me do this. If you leave, I'll destroy you." Abuse feels like fear before peace, anxiety before joy, silence before honesty. Let this truth land clearly. Love does not require fear to function. Any relationship that thrives on intimidation, manipulation, or humiliation is not love. It is domination. And marriage does not transform abuse into holiness. Bad relationships. People often ask, why don't they just leave? But that question comes from the outside. Inside the relationship, the reality is different. People stay because they remember who the person used to be. They fear breaking their family. They fear judgment. They fear starting over. They fear being alone. They fear they won't survive financially or emotionally. And sometimes, they stay because they still hope. Hope is powerful. But hope without boundaries becomes a prison. Staying is not stupidity. It is emotional captivity. The cost of staying too long. Here is the part most people don't talk about. Toxic and abusive relationships don't just hurt you. They change you. You lose your voice. You lose your confidence. You lose your joy. You lose yourself. Children are involved. They don't just hear the arguments. They absorb the atmosphere. Children raised in constant conflict learn fear instead of safety, silence instead of expression, dysfunction instead of love. Sometimes staying for the children hurts them more than leaving. How to cope when you cannot leave yet. Coping is not surrender. Coping is preparation. If you are still inside a toxic or abusive marriage, here is how you survive without losing yourself. Stop justifying the abuse. What hurts you matters. Create emotional distance. You don't need to attend every argument. Build external support. Isolation strengthens abuse. Connection weakens it. Protect your mental health. Journal, pray, reflect, seek counseling. Regain your identity. You are more than someone's spouse. Coping is not the end goal. Coping is the bridge to clarity. The big question: is divorce or separation the solution? Now we arrive at the hardest question. Is divorce or separation the perfect solution? The honest answer is this: there is no perfect solution, only the healthiest one. Separation or divorce is not always the first step, but it is sometimes the necessary step. Here is the truth many are afraid to say out loud. You cannot fix someone who refuses accountability. You cannot heal where harm continues. You cannot negotiate peace with someone committed to control. When abuse is present, physical, emotional, psychological, or spiritual, distance becomes protection, not failure, against life. Remaining in abuse is a slow destruction of it. Separation can be a boundary. Divorce can be an act of survival. The goal is not to win a marriage. The goal is to preserve human dignity and life. When leaving is the bravest act of love, leaving is not giving up. Leaving is choosing truth over illusion. It takes courage to walk away from familiarity, face uncertainty, rebuild identity, start again. But listen carefully. Peace feels unfamiliar at first when chaos has been your normal. Freedom may feel scary, but it does not suffocate. And one day, you will breathe again without fear of consequences. The final awakening, resolution. One day you will look back and realize the moment you chose yourself was the moment your life changed. Direction. Not everyone you love is meant to stay forever. Some people are chapters, not destinations. If you are listening to this while hurting, know this: you are not weak. You are not crazy. You are not wrong for wanting peace. Your life was not created for endurance alone. It was created for purpose, joy, safety, and dignity. And whatever decision you make it from clarity, not fear. Because choosing life is always the right choice.
The scales of choice tip slowly towards safety and light. Fear recedes as illumination guides the path.